Hi, we've talked up until this point about everything that we need to do to get ready for a job. We've actually gone through the resume, the cover letter, the interview skills. You've done all that, you've been successful, you've actually gotten the job. And now you think everything's good, everything's behind me, I've got a job, I'm good to go, can kind of relax. And actually, the first 6 months, the first year of new employment is probably the most critical. This is when a lot of people are actually terminated, and a lot of times, more often than not, it has nothing to do with their technical skills so much as what employers refer to as their soft skills. You know, there's a lot of things that we can do right in that first 6 months, in that first year, that will help us succeed in our career, not only today but in the future. And I just kind of want to discuss some of those things that we need to be considering as we're starting a new job. Probably the most important thing, because it's probably one of the biggest problems that employers face today, is absenteeism. And a lot of times we don't think about absenteeism because we think it's just us, I'm taking a day, no big deal. But it can be, and it can affect you really for many, many, many years to come. There are certain times when you do need to call in sick. If you are running a fever, if you have any kind of contagious disease, if you have a child that is sick, there are certain times when, yes, you do need to call in sick, especially if it could affect the health of the other people in your office. But I know a lot of times we get up and we maybe don't feel quite right, got a little bit of headache, maybe a little bit of a cold, sinus infection, whatever, and we think, I'm just going to call in sick today. Well, you know, that's the day that you need to think, can I really go into work, and is my headache going to affect anybody else? Is it contagious? Probably not. And so sometimes, even though it sounds kind of hard, it's sometimes best just to go ahead and go into work. Because what happens with absenteeism, you know, if you're a little bit sick today and you go ahead and take today off, maybe it's a headache or whatever, and then next week you really are sick and there is a need for you to be gone, you've already missed part of last week, and now you're missing part of this week. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people, and like I said, absenteeism is probably the #1 problem or the #1 headache in today's environment with employers. If you are chronically absent, you call in, you know, once or twice a week, once or twice every 2 weeks, once or twice a month, what happens is that starts affecting your credibility as an employee. If you're not there, chances are somebody else is having to do your work. And if you are truly sick and you really have a great attendance record, none of us as co-workers ever mind to kind of pick up the slack. But if I'm sitting at my desk every single Monday, and every single Monday you're calling in sick, then eventually it's going to start causing relationship problems between you and I. Because I'm going to start questioning, is this person really sick every Monday, or are they out there having a good time on the weekend and just can't pull themselves out of bed? I have a good time, but yet I still pull out myself and I still get to work. Why can't they? So absenteeism, chronic absenteeism, not only affects you, it affects those people around you. And not only does it affect your relationship with your coworkers, it can also very well affect your relationships with your supervisors as well too. Because eventually they're going to get to the point where they know that they can't depend on you. And if they can't depend on you, then when the projects come along or they're looking for people to take on additional responsibility, if they know that you're habitually late, they know that you're habitually gone or absent, chances are they're not going to assign you that project. They're going to assign that project to somebody that they know that's going to be here. And employers will tell you a lot of times, if they have two kind of equally qualified candidates, both have same seniority level, both same skill sets, or maybe even one's a little bit less than the other in skill sets, a lot of times they're going to take a look at the entire picture. So they're going to look at those people, they're going to look at their absenteeism records, or they're going to look at their history as how often they're at work. And a lot of times, if you're the one who's gone all the time, even though you might have the higher degree, the better qualifications, the more training, if you're not there, chances are they're going to pass you by and give it to somebody else. So absenteeism can hurt your relationship with your coworkers. It can hurt relationships with your supervisors as well too. And not only can it hurt your relationship with the supervisor, it can kind of cause animosity amongst your coworkers and the supervisors. Because there again, if I'm an employee, I'm at the office every single Monday, and for the last 6 weeks, every single Monday, you've called in sick, and nothing's ever happened to you, eventually quit resenting you and start resenting that employer. So your actions not only affect you, they can affect your coworkers, they can affect your supervisors too. So you really need to be careful with your absenteeism. And I know a lot of people joke and they'll say, well, I need a mental health day, I've got the time coming, I'm going to go ahead and take it. You know, you do have sick time a lot of times, but still, kind of my philosophy has always been, we never know what's around the corner. We never know what's going to happen to us the next day. You know, could it be that, yes, I could go to work, I'm not feeling quite up to it, but that's okay, because I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You know, tomorrow I really might need to be sick. And the worst thing that can happen is you can, you know, especially around Christmas time, and, you know, you've got all the shopping to do, and you're busy at work, and your weekends are busy and stressed, and you think, I'm just going to take one day, call in sick, and go shopping. The last thing you want to do is take a day, go shop, or call in sick, go shopping, only to run into maybe a coworker or somebody that knows a coworker that will get back to you at work. Because then it also, you know, you've already got a strained relationship probably going with that coworker, and now you've got the added thing of trust too. You know, okay, they told me they were sick, and actually they're out shopping. So, you know, you really have to be very, very careful with absenteeism. The other thing that absenteeism can affect is it can actually affect not only you today in your current job, and not only can it affect the relationships and affect the possibility of you being promoted or getting raises, but absenteeism is documented. I know that when I take a vacation day or a sick day, I have to fill out a form. I retain a copy, the business office retains a copy. Those are documented papers, and those stay in my records. So if I were to apply at another job and they might ask my supervisor, you know, what was her attendance policy like, they can actually check that, and because that is documented information. I've got a proven record or proven history of since I've been here. So once you take a vacation day, once you take a sick day, then it is on your permanent record. So if that new employer calls and they say, can you tell me about about her work, you know, her work's fine, can you tell me about the attendance? Well, you know, let me pull out the file, and right here, you know, she's typically gone at least 3 or 4 days a month. So, you know, you've got a new employer that you're wanting to relocate or move towards, and all of a sudden, you've got this attendance problems that's standing in their way. So it could affect not only how you are or how you're viewed in your current employment, it can also affect the possibility of you getting another employment or getting additional employment somewhere else. So absenteeism, you really, really, really have to be careful. And a lot of companies, another good reason to read your policies and procedure handbook, because a lot of times, a lot of companies, you aren't even awarded sick time until after your probationary period. Some companies might award you a week, some companies might award so many hours per pay period, and so you really need to be careful, because you know, you might call in the first 30 days and not even have sick time, and then you would be docked. So you really want to, you know, really evaluate your situation and make sure that it is a day that you should not be at work. And like I said, if you've got something that's contagious, if there's an emergency in your family, employers are going to be willing to work with you, especially if you've had good attendance prior to that. Don't let something like attendance kind of sabotage your career before you even get it off the ground, because it's a huge problem with employers. And really, there's several things that we can do to kind of help ourselves kind of get that outstanding rating our first year, and a lot of them are very simple. We overlook them because we don't really think about them, but there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of give us that additional boost or benefit. And one is to adopt the right attitude. And what I'm talking about, adopting the right attitude, you know, you've just graduated from school, you've got a 1-year certificate or 2-year associate, some of you may go on and get your bachelor's or your master's, and you've got all these great ideas, and you're wanting to get started, and because you've been in school for 2 years or 4 years, you think, you know, there's no way I'm going to start entry level, you know, with my skills, my background, I should be somewhere more middle level. And unfortunately, a lot of times in the real world, that's not how it works. So sometimes we have to adjust our attitudes. We have to recognize that, yes, I do have the degree, and yes, I did very well in my classes, but you know what, I don't have the work experience. I've not been out in the work environment. I'm going to be entering an environment where people maybe have 5, 10, 15 years experience on me. I'm going to have to kind of adjust my attitude. I'm going to have to realize or recognize that, you know what, they might be asking me to do things that are kind of outside my job descriptions, things that I might feel are kind of beneath me because I have this degree, but really they're not, you know, and I will talk about it again. It's kind of paying your dues. I know a lot of our offices in Southern Illinois, especially our small offices, you know, who knows what you might be doing. If you're the administrative assistant and it's a small office and everybody has coffee of a morning, one of your job duties might be washing those coffee cups of an evening. And guess what? Everybody that started at that office has had to wash those coffee cups. Is that something we went to school and learned how to do? No. Is that something we ever thought we would be doing? No. But is that something we might be asked to do? You know, or take out trash or something like that. So you kind of got to adjust your attitude. And you've got to recognize that, yes, I've got this 2-year degree, but there's still so much more I can learn. And a lot of times what we've learned in the classroom may or may not be how it is applied in the work environment. So yes, I have this education, yes, I have all this knowledge, but how they want me to apply it might look different than how I applied in the classroom. So you've really got to continue to be ready to continue to learn. Another thing is adjusting your expectations. Again, it kind of goes back to paying your dues, and sometimes, you know, the first 6 months you might be doing really that nasty grunt work, that very tedious work that's really not taxing your brain, that's really not doing anything other than getting you acclimated to the company. And I actually, one of our students went to work in Chicago, and he left, you know, he actually left Logan, went on, got a 4-year degree, and I was talking to him, and it was kind of funny, and he said, you know, he got to be part of this big project, and he was so excited. He thought he was going to get to do all this stuff. And basically, his job for the first 3 months on this project was not alphabetizing, but sorting all the emails, because it was a large company. The project was a bigger project. It encompassed 2 or 3 different offices, so emails were running back and forth, and they used emails as a way to keep track of everything. And so his job was prioritizing and sorting the emails, you know, in the proper stages of from the most current to the back. And he said, never did I think I'd be using my degree to do this. And, you know, I looked at him and I said, well, is it pay any different? He said, well, no. He said, my salary is my salary. He said, but I just can't believe that I'm sitting for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, sorting emails. But, you know, that's part of it. His expectation was out here. He graduated, he went on, got a 4-year degree, he's got all this information, he's ready to start. He thought he was going to be starting up here, and guess what? He's doing something, you know, that anybody could do. So, you know, he was frustrated, and, you know, he said, I'm not going to do this anymore. But it's going to be like that any company you go to. You're going to get some of that grunt work. You're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to earn your way. You know, granted, they interviewed him and they knew the skill level, but until you can get in and improve yourself, they really didn't have anything else to base what his level of expertise was. So sometimes we have to, you know, kind of take a look at what we're doing, recognize that it might be a little bit boring, recognize that it might be a little tedious, but at the end of the day, your paycheck's still the same. You're still getting up and going to work. You're still part of a team. You're still learning, because, you know, he had to read all those emails before he could sort them and classify them and put them in the proper records. So he knew everything that was going on every stage of that project. So even though he didn't look at it that way, he was still learning. So sometimes we have to, like I said, kind of adjust our expectations. And the other thing is mastering the breaking in skills, which is very, very, very difficult in a new environment. You know, if you go into a new company and you're the new person on the block, you know, everybody's going to be kind of looking at you, trying to figure out what kind of person you are. You're going to be part of the team, you know, are you going to be able to contribute? And so you're going to have to kind of really get in. And this, I know it's difficult because you don't want to jump in the middle and just start talking and you know, expound all your knowledge and virtues, and you don't want to start, you know, building friendships too quickly, because you need to kind of sit back and evaluate everybody that you meet, because in most offices, in most office environments, you're going to find that there's a core group of people. Every office environment's going to have that troublemaker or that office stir where nobody's happy. She's never happy, or he's never happy unless everybody's unhappy. You're going to have the office gossiper. You're going to have the kind of the mother or the grandmother figure that's always bringing the cakes in and things. And somewhere in that mix of people is also going to be the mentor. And that's the person you're going to kind of want to get to know and attach yourself to. That's somebody that's going to be able to help you, you know, in your career and help you build. But also part of the breaking is you know, is learning the company dress. If your office is business casual, you know, Monday through Thursday, everybody's either in, you know, women might be in skirts or dress pants. Guys are in just, you know, khakis and a short sleeve shirt, or khakis and a shirt and tie. You know, that's kind of the rule of thumb that you're going to need to follow too. And if on Friday they all show up in blue jeans, then that's kind of what you need to do too. You need to go in and kind of, and I hate to say it, but kind of go in and fit in with the rest of the crowd. After you've been there a while and you've kind of got a handle on everything, and if maybe your dress code's just a little bit different, and once you've proven yourself in your work environment, nobody's going to look so much at your dress. But those first couple of months they're going to be looking at the entire picture. So don't do anything to kind of set yourself apart. You know, you kind of want to go in and fit in and kind of blend. The other thing is, you know, you're really an outsider until you prove otherwise. People, you have to give people an opportunity to get to know you. Just like you need an opportunity to get to know them as well too. So don't go in and think, I'm going to make a good friend or a best friend the first day, the first month, the first 3 months. You might not. You need a chance to get in, get to know everybody, and let them get to know you as well too. So kind of learn that breaking in. It's just like your classrooms a lot of times, you know. First couple of times in the classroom, kind of students are somewhat hesitant to raise their hand, to answer questions, to interact with other students, interact with the faculty, until they can kind of get a feel for the rest of the environment. Manage the impressions you make. You know, be there on time every day, and being on time usually means being there 15 minutes before, getting your cup of coffee or whatever it is, and being at your desk and ready to go at 8 o'clock. Managing the impressions you mean, putting in a full 8 hours. You know, if it's time, if you leave at 5 o'clock, don't put your stuff up at 5:15 and be ready at 5. It means working till 5 and heading out the door. Dressing appropriately, speaking to the people, getting your tasks done, asking the right questions. You know, and it's easy to do within the office environment, but a lot of times, a lot of companies will also kind of have social or mixes, you know, especially if they've got a group of new employees starting. You know, in the summer, I know a lot of employers do the office picnics. Some offices have actually office softball games. Some offices will do Christmas parties and things like that. And it's a more, those picnics and Christmas parties and things such as that are often a more relaxed environment. But it is also a time where you probably want to be more concerned about your appearance and your behavior than any time before. Because a lot of times at those picnics and office parties, not only are your coworkers there and your immediate supervisors, but a lot of time, you know, the head CEO all the way down, maybe board members are there. And unfortunately, you can make an impression you can be a stellar employee Monday through Friday and go to the office picnic or go to the office Christmas party and have one bad experience. And unfortunately, that one bad experience can override your reputation for a very, very, very long time to come. Because we go in and we think, all right, we're in a more casual dress, it's a more casual environment, you know, they might be serving drinks, they might not be serving drinks, you know, we think we can kind of loosen up and be ourselves. Well, yes and no. You know, you need to have fun and you need to interact and you need to leave office work at the office, and it's more of a social gathering, so you're talking more about social events. But I have seen too many Christmas parties where people have just gone wild, and unfortunately, that's all that's talked about. And my daughter got a job a couple years ago at a bank, and banks still are fairly conservative, and she actually started in August, I believe, and you know, and I've tried to tell my girls things like this along, although I think most of it goes right over their heads because their eyes are usually rolling back in their head about the time I finish. But I said, you know, and I try to tell her, you know, yes, it's more social, and yes, you need to have fun and interact, but be careful. And she called me her first day and was telling me about it, and she said, Mom, she said, you're right about those Christmas parties. And I said, why? She said, my first day there, August, she said they were still talking about some girl last December who had done something at the August Christmas party. You know, 8 months later, this poor girl is still trying to live down whatever it was that she did at this Christmas party. So managing your impressions, you know, getting to work early, getting in a full hour, not talking on your cell phone, staying off the internet unless it's work related, you know, all of these things that we don't think about. That's part of managing the impressions you make. Build effective relationships. That goes back to what I said earlier. You know, when we first start and we go around, we might meet 5 people in the office, we might meet 15 people in the office. We don't know those people. We don't know their personalities. We don't know if they're people that we can trust. We don't know if they're people that can help us or hurt us in our endeavors. So you're going to have to kind of sit back, get to know the people, figure out those people who you can trust. You know, because that I was saying, once you tell somebody something, especially if it's something personal or private, there's no way to retract that. And if you don't know that this individual will maintain your confidence, and you tell them something that's of personal nature and it gets around the office, there's no pulling that back. So, you know, be very, very careful who you bring into your confidences and what information you do discuss. Because like I said earlier, there's all sorts of people in an office environment, and that person that you're trying to find, that person that can help you the most, is the person who is a mentor, who has been with the company, who knows the in and outs, who knows the ropes, and who is there genuinely to help you move up the company as well too. So you need to build effective relationships, but you need to be careful until you can get to kind of know who those people are. Become a good follower. You know, sometimes, again, it goes back, we're just graduated, we want to get out and impress them, show them everything we know. Well, if we just started, they have no reason to believe us, no reason to accept what we know. We've got to prove that, yes, I can do the work, and yes, I do the work, and yes, my work is correct. And, you know, and then if you sit back, because, you know, we've had students, I've had a student who had about a 20-year history with a company, went to a different company, and how they did things when she was at company A was not how they did things when she went to company B. And it was very, very frustrating to her because she had all these good ideas and how she wanted to do things. Well, company B was very successful in and of themselves, and every time she went to management with a new idea of how they could be doing things, they kind of rejected it. Not so much because they weren't interested, but she was brand new. She'd only been in the office a month. You know, you can't be there a month and go in and start expect to change how this company who's been there for several years and has several branches and obviously is doing very well, you can't expect them to go in and immediately incorporate your change. You've got to sit back, be patient, do a good job, prove to them that you know what you're talking about, and then maybe approach them with, you know, a way that could be done better. Because as businesses do get in a habit of doing the same thing in the same way over and over because it's worked before. You know, so sometimes they do need a little kind of push into the 21st century, and yes, we can change it and do this way, but don't push them your first week, don't push them your first month. Prove to them that you know what you're talking about and that you can do the job before you go in and make those suggestions. Learn the company culture. Again, you know, part of the company culture is dress code. You know, am I expected to dress nice, business professional, business casual? And trust me, there are so many different terms out there for business dress that, you know, I think there's like 6 or 8 different terminologies on business professional, business casual, business everyday. You know, it could evening wear, you know, it just boggles your mind. But part of the company culture is sitting back and looking. If you notice that most people are wearing khaki pants and a polo with the company's emblem on it or logo on it, then that's how you need to adopt it. Sometimes companies, you know, and sometimes it's difficult because companies don't give you a very specific dress policy. You know, it's actually nicer when they do. Again, I keep using my daughter, but when she went to the bank, you know, she was upset because she just bought a brand new pair of capris, you know, and she had her outfit all laid out, and they told her no capris. So there went her brand new outfit, you know. She could not wear any shirts that had lace on the sleeve or lace on the neckline. what this company did do though, and I thought it was very nice, they gave the employees like a spending allowance. I think she said they gave them $300 in the fall, and then they gave them a catalog and said, you know, we don't care if you wear khakis or, you know, nice dress pants or whatever, and here are your shirts that you can choose from. And the catalog, you know, it was in the company's in Champaign, and everybody in Champaign, Illinois is a big U of I fan. And so in this catalog, it had all of their company shirts with all the company logos, but it also had a section on U of I clothing. So she was able to buy a couple shirts, you know, with the company logo, and a couple shirts with the U of I logo. And that was part of her everyday wardrobe, and she knew that Monday through Friday, this is pretty much what she was expected to wear. That's part of the company culture. Part of the company culture, in addition to your clothing, is, you know, addressing your supervisors or your superiors. Do you refer to them as Mr. or Ms. or Doctor or whatever? Or is it a more kind of a casual background and everybody's on a first name basis? That's part of the company culture. Develop organizational savvy. You know, this is a part where I kind of almost hesitate to talk about, but office politics. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention office politics. They exist. It's a fact of life. Is it fair? No. But does it exist? Yes. And is it a bad thing? Sometimes not. You know, but you have to recognize that it might exist. You have to and again, that's part of the employment process. And again, I hate to keep picking on my poor daughter, but she gives me so many examples, because when she first started working for this company, there was what she considered to be office politics, and it was frustrating to her, because it was actually an individual that did not have the seniority that she had had, because this was after she'd been there a while, but, you know, was given a position similar to hers, similar in money, even though she was made to start a little bit less. And so it was kind of frustrating, but that's part of it. That's part of our companies today, and part of it is learning to deal with it and accept it and to move on. And I always tell everybody, I don't care, every job that everybody's had, we can find lots and lots of good things in it, and we can find things that aren't so good in it. You know, there's no such thing as a perfect job. Even people who own their own company, who have complete and total say, will tell you their job is not a perfect job in a perfect environment. There's no such thing. So recognize that office politics do play a part in most employment arenas. And the other thing is understanding your role. You know, again, I talked about earlier about paying dues. When you're a new employer, you have to pay dues. We've all had to pay dues. I've had to pay dues, and sometimes I still think I'm paying dues, and that's okay. Because sometimes those due paying things, you know, if you use it right, you can get out, you can meet other people, you know, you can kind of build camaraderie. I know that sounds silly, but you can. I was once assigned a job that nobody else wanted, and actually it was a grant that we received to build a mobile exhibit, and I did it. You know, and we took this mobile exhibit float to all these parades and stuff, and really it turned out to be a great experience for me. I got to know a lot of different people, because I had to find the kids that would sit on it. You know, I dealt very closely with other people here on this campus that I might not have had an opportunity to deal with. So, was it a job that I wanted? No. Was it you know, paying the due? Yes. But you know, like I said, I learned a lot. It gave me an opportunity to meet other people that I wouldn't have necessarily dealt with. So you can turn some of those things around. So understanding your role. You know, looking at the big picture. Again, the young man who was upset because he was organizing email. Did he like to do that? No. Did he want to do that? No. But was it, I mean, as I said earlier, it gave him an opportunity to figure out he knew exactly what was going on within this project, so he was learning, regardless of the fact that even though he didn't think that he was learning. But he also served a very important role. Somebody had to organize all this. Had it not been organized, it would have been a mess. You know, he did it, you know, he had to do a good job. If he didn't do a good job, they wouldn't have been able to go back as points of references with this email. And so, you know, was it what he wanted to do? No. But was it important in the overall picture? Yes, very much so. So even though we might be assigned to do something that we don't see the value in it. Maybe sometimes we need to not look just at the end of our desk, but look beyond and look at the bigger picture and see how it might affect everybody else. And master the job task. You know, if you're assigned different jobs, learn them all. Learn everything, you know. Don't just learn enough to get by or peruse through. You know, you've got to really understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and then just master the task. You know, that way if you are promoted and somebody needs to come in, you can actually retrain that individual. So don't just do something to get it done. Try to learn that task. Try to figure out, you know, am I doing it right, and how can I maybe even do it a little bit better. And I know a lot of these things seem really common sense, but these are the things that catch us. These are the things that cause us to get those pink slips a lot of times. It's not our technical skills. It's all these other, not getting along with your coworkers, not getting along with your supervisor, you know, absentee problems, and not even just absenteeism, but also just showing up late as well too. Again, and we've talked about a lot of these. Learn the company culture. You know, do I call the supervisor by their first name? You know, what is the appropriate dress? Is there a dress code? Observe and listen. You know, the first few months, it's really, really best if we can talk a little bit less and listen a whole lot more. We really do learn a lot of information. You know, read things that come across your desk. You know, information that you think might not be pertinent to you, but still they send them. And I know when I first started here at the college, the one thing the college did that I absolutely love is we do a lot of grants every year. And they would always circulate, if the college was awarded a new grant, they would circulate a real brief synopsis on what that grant was, you know, who oversaw it, the functions of it. And you know, you could read it, and that way if anyone had questions, you knew where to send them to. That was, you know, it was just kind of the college's part of keeping everybody informed. So did I need to know everything that was in that grant and how to operate that grant? No, I just needed to know the contact person, the name of the grant, and basically what the grant was about, a little bit about what the information is about. Create a positive work attitude, you know, a professional image. It's so easy sometimes, and I know when I was first out of college, and I remember literally rolling out of bed, flipping on a pair of blue jeans and a hoodie, and putting my hair in a ponytail and going to class. You know, those days are behind us. Once you walk into the office environment, again, it's your overall appearance. It's not just what you know, it's your overall appearance. You know, and we shouldn't have to talk about personal hygiene, but I bet all of you that's been in the work environment, maybe even in a classroom, have sat next to somebody or been that you would have rather not sat next to because of personal hygiene issues. We've got to remember to make sure our hair is clean and our teeth are brushed and our fingernails are clean. The clothes that we have on are not only clean, but they're pressed. You know, chances are, I don't care what type of environment you're going to go into, flip-flops typically are not tolerated in the office environment. You know, so make sure that you're dressed professionally. Make sure that you've created a positive impression. And not only your personal appearance, but your workstation as well too. You know, I know people, and I know I'm at really one end of the spectrum. I recognize that. You know, I like everything in its nice, neat little bundles and piles, and I'm very organized and I know not everybody works within that. But do you really want your supervisor to walk in? Do you really want a client to walk in and not be able to walk on your floor, or to see a coffee stain or a Pepsi stain on the floor? Or do you want a client to walk in and have papers or half-eaten sandwiches or whatever on your desk? That's part of your positive impression, is keeping your office area neat and clean too. And you think nobody's going to get fired because their office environment is not kept. But people do get fired because of that, especially if they've been asked repeatedly, especially if you're in a high volume area where a lot of people are you know, going by your office. People do get terminated for things such as that. So make sure that not only you're clean, but your office environment is clean too. When you're there, continue to seek retraining. You know, some of you are in fields that lends themselves to retraining. Anything in the computer area, you know, there's so many new software programs, there's so many changes in the computers and the hardware, there's so much technology changes going on. Continue to seek retraining. And sometimes that means company-sponsored retraining, sometimes that means you sponsored training, sometimes the training will be on your own. I know several times when I first started, I used to always take, every time I saw a seminar on English use, you know, grammar, punctuation, spelling, all of that, even though I had graduated from school, you know, that's something that I think all of us can continue to learn and improve upon, is our written communication skills and our oral communication skills. I just laugh and tease, you know, I'm old enough that when I was in high school we didn't have computers, we actually had manual typewriters, but you know, and so when I first started we didn't have computers, and when we did first get computers, a lot of times it was the administrative assistants who had them before you did, and so I've always laughed and said, computers are my back burner project. You know, I know what I need to do to get done what I need to get done, but I don't know much beyond that. And that's something that I've kind of tried to turn around. I've taken classes in Access and found out that I didn't really, for my job, for my personal use, really don't need Access. I've taken jobs in Excel. Excel I do need. You know, I can use it to set up databases and things such as that. So, you know, I'm always looking for retraining. And again, with technology changing so much, the way we reach students now through Twitter and through Facebook and blogs and all of that is retraining. So you need to continue to retrain, continue to learn new technical skills. Again, and continue to improve your verbal and your oral communication skills. We can never stop learning. Learn how to solve problems. You know, employers also need employees who can get along. Develop your people skills, you know, and sometimes that's very hard for some people because some people are more quiet, more introverted than others. You know, learn ways to kind of get out and mix, and sometimes it's volunteering for an extra project. Maybe you've got an expertise in an area that they could lend, you know, and so that might be the most difficult thing for you to do, is to raise your hand and to volunteer for that project. But it's those people who can volunteer, it's those people who can interact, it's those people who will get promoted and moved ahead. Employers look for people who are honest, who have a commitment to their job and a commitment and loyalty to their company. Integrity, and sounds silly, but a willingness to change. Sometimes how we're used to doing things is not what's best for the employer, and so sometimes we need to take our skills and the things that we've learned and be willing to change those to better fit the employer's needs and skills, or the employer's needs. Ethics and integrity. You know, in today's environment, because of technology, because of cell phones, you know, we no longer have to use the employer's phone to make personal phone calls. We all have cell phones. We all have text messaging. So, you know, you need to limit your cell phone usage, limit your text messaging. There are companies who actually will make you, because of security reasons, make you leave your cell phone at the door when you come in. Internet. You know, we go on the internet and we think, I just need to look up something really quick. I'm going to look it up and then I'll get off of it. And all of a sudden you found out that you've spent an hour on your computer. There again, and because internet usage has become such a problem and has cost the employer so much time and productivity, a lot of employers now have in their policy and procedure handbook that if you are at a site that's not work-related, a lot of times they give you a verbal warning, maybe even a written warning, and then you might be terminated. Some employers have zero tolerance. If you're at a site that's not work-related, you could be terminated immediately. So again, be careful on your computers. We've got a wealth of information at our hands, but make sure that it's work-related that you're using that internet for, or that it's work, and again, you know, avoid the temptation to use your cell phone, unless, of course, if you've got a break or a lunch hour, totally fine, totally appropriate. But watch your use of time, because that does, because you do, in a way, that's stealing, because you're stealing company time and you should be working. Admit when you're wrong. Guess what? We all make mistakes. We don't like to make mistakes. We don't like to fess up to our mistakes. But employer, if you make a mistake, you need to learn to take responsibility for it. Hopefully your employer has the good sense to recognize that you've taken responsibility and deal with it, and realizes that we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. But if you make a mistake, don't try to hide it. Don't try to pass it off on somebody else. If you made a mistake, hey, I did it. Show me how I didn't mean to make the mistake. Show me how I need to correct it. It won't happen again. Chances are employers will forget it and move on. And that way, not only are you owning up to what you've done, but you're also building credibility. So if further down the line a mistake's made and you've always owned up to them in the past, and nobody's owning up to this one, then chances are the employer's going to know that you did not make the mistake at this time. So, you know, if you make a mistake, own up to it. Admit when you're wrong. Sometimes part of survival in that first year is volunteering for projects. That infamous float that, and I don't know that I really volunteered for it, but I guess I did because it was mine. But, you know, assume additional responsibilities. Seek out things that you can do. Now make sure that when you seek those things out that you have the time to do them, that you have the skills to do them, and that you can get it done. Because the last thing you want to do is say, oh yeah, I can do it, everybody thinks great, Jan's doing it, and then at the end of the 9 weeks when it's supposed to be done, Jan's not done anything. Because then it kind of goes back to those office Christmas parties, and then you get recognition, but maybe not the kind of recognition you were thinking. So make sure that if you do volunteer for a project, that you do get it done. You know, to survive, you must be visible, and being visible sometimes people think, oh my gosh, I work with those people 40 hours a week. Last thing I want to do is give up my weekend to, you know, go to the company picnic, or go to the company softball game, or go to this function, or go to this dinner, or do whatever. But guess what? That's part of our responsibility. That's part of being visible. And again, not only is that, chances are you have spent 40 hours with those people, but chances are they're your coworkers and supervisors. You know, in this social gathering, it gives you an opportunity to meet people from other departments. It gives you an opportunity possibly to maybe even meet with some of the senior partners or some of the board members. So use it as an opportunity to continue to network and continue to build those social skills. You know, during your first year, part of that first year is just working harder than anybody else, and sometimes putting in extra hours, maybe doing some overtime. Now, I'm not saying, you know, if you're a normal shift Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, that you should work every day Monday through Friday from 8 to 8, because you cannot maintain that level either. But again, using common sense, if there's a big project due at the end of the week, you know you've got to get it out. You're not getting it out Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You know, a couple nights you're going to have to work beyond 5, then work beyond 5 to get it done. We all have to. It's part of that work ethic. Work a little bit harder, a little bit longer your first year. And I know I've covered a lot of information, but again, a lot of times in our first year, our success depends not so much just on our technical skills, but also on our soft skills. Again, just to kind of go through it, you know, watch your attendance, make sure that you're there on time, that you put in full 8 hours, you know, that you get along with your coworkers, avoid gossip, you know, follow directions, sit back, talk a little bit less, listen a whole lot more. Prove yourself, prove that you were the candidate, you were the right candidate for this job. And hopefully your first year, your first 6 months will be a smooth transition. Thank you.